Have you ever placed a rosary in your bedroom during Lent and wondered why miracles didn't immediately transform your life? Perhaps you've heard of Padre Pio's powerful teaching about this sacred practice, but haven't experienced its profound effects yourself. Many seek spiritual transformation but miss the essential elements that activate divine grace in their homes and hearts. The rosary isn't just a decorative item or a simple string of beads. It represents a spiritual connection that has been changing lives for centuries. And during the sacred season of Lent, its power multiplies in ways you cannot imagine. What you're about to discover isn't merely another spiritual practice. It's a revelation that Padre Pio, one of the most venerated saints of our time, repeatedly emphasized throughout his ministry. His stigmata-marked hands would often clutch his rosary as he described the extraordinary protection and blessings it brought to those who honored it properly. This holy man, who could read souls and bilocate, insisted that during the 40 days of Lent, heaven pays special attention to those who embrace this practice with sincere hearts. The transformation isn't just spiritual. Many have reported tangible changes in their relationships, health situations, and persistent problems that previously seemed insurmountable. Before I share this profound secret with you, understand that what separates those who experience miracles from those who don't isn't luck or divine favoritism. It's understanding the proper approach to this sacred practice. Padre Pio often said, "Prayer is the best weapon we possess, the key that opens the heart of God." Today you'll learn not just to pray, but to create a sanctuary in your bedroom that invites divine intervention during this holy season of repentance and renewal. The practice is simple enough for anyone to implement, yet powerful enough to create ripples of transformation throughout your entire life. If you approach it with the right intention and understanding. Padre Pio wasn't just any spiritual figure. He was a man who bore the wounds of Christ for over 50 years, whose confessional became famous for his ability to read souls and reveal sins the penitent had forgotten or hidden. When he spoke about spiritual practices, he did so not from theological theory but from direct mystical experience. His hands would tremble when he discussed the rosary's power, particularly during Lent, when the veil between heaven and earth thins through our collective sacrifice and contemplation. The rosary, he would say, is the weapon for these times. He understood something many modern Christians have forgotten, that physical objects can become conduits of spiritual power when blessed and used with reverence. The humble Capuchin, friar from Pietrelcina, might seem an unlikely global spiritual authority, yet millions traveled to San Giovanni Rotondo just for a few moments in his presence. Why? Because Padre Pio didn't just talk about miracles, he was a living miracle. When he recommended placing a rosary in your bedroom during Lent, he wasn't suggesting a superstitious practice, but revealing a profound spiritual principle. Those who were closest to him noted how he would place special emphasis on this practice during the Lenten season, explaining that our bedrooms are where we are most vulnerable, where our subconscious opens, where both angelic and demonic influences can reach us most directly. The rosary, he taught, creates a shield of prayer that protects this sacred space and allows healing and divine whisperings to reach our receptive souls. What makes his teaching about the rosary during Lent particularly powerful is how it connects to the liturgical season's purpose. Lent isn't merely about giving up chocolate or social media. It's a spiritual battle, a desert experience mirroring Christ's 40 days of temptation. Padre Pio understood this battle intimately, often spending entire nights in spiritual combat. He knew that during this season, when we deliberately weaken our attachment to worldly comforts, we need additional spiritual protection and guidance. The rosary in your room becomes not just a devotional object, but a spiritual lighthouse, guiding you through the storms of temptation and illuminating the path toward Easter's resurrection promise. This understanding transformed thousands of lives during his lifetime and continues to do so today for those who follow his guidance with sincere hearts. We live in unprecedented times of spiritual warfare, where anxiety, depression, and disconnection have become the norm rather than the exception. Padre Pio prophetically saw our era coming, warning his spiritual children that a time would arrive when the rosary would become more necessary than ever. That time is now. During Lent, As the Church universally turns toward repentance and spiritual renewal, unique spiritual currents flow through the world, making it the perfect season for profound transformation. Your bedroom, the place where you spend approximately 1/3 of your life, becomes a strategic location for this spiritual intervention. The simple act of placing a blessed rosary there during these 40 days creates a continuous current of prayer, even when you're not consciously praying. What many fail to understand is that Lent offers a special dispensation of grace. Just as farmers know that certain seasons are optimal for planting specific crops, spiritual masters like Padre Pio recognize that certain liturgical seasons provide optimal conditions for particular spiritual practices. The rosary in your bedroom during Lent works on multiple dimensions simultaneously. It purifies the room's atmosphere from negative energies that may have accumulated. It creates a continuous connection to Mary's intercession even while you sleep, and it establishes a physical reminder of your commitment to spiritual growth. Those who have implemented this practice often report experiencing more vivid spiritual dreams, receiving unexpected insights to persistent problems, and feeling a tangible sense of peace that defies logical explanation. If you believe this, teaching can transform your Lenten journey and bring unexpected blessings into your life. Type in the comments, "I am ready for Padre Pio's blessing," and subscribe to the channel for more life-changing spiritual wisdom. Your simple act of faith in commenting becomes its own prayer, a public declaration of your openness to receive what heaven wants to give you during this sacred season. Don't let doubt rob you of the miracles waiting to unfold in your life. This practice has transformed countless lives across generations, and your situation is not beyond its reach, no matter how impossible it may seem right now. The combination of Lent's spiritual power and Padre Pio's proven wisdom creates an opportunity that only comes once a year, and that opportunity is knocking on your heart right now. The first pillar of Padre Pio's teaching on the Rosary during Lent is consecration. This isn't merely about placing beads in your room, it's about intentionally dedicating both the space and the sacramental object to divine purpose. Padre Pio taught that a rosary should ideally be blessed by a priest, then ceremonially placed in your bedroom with a specific prayer of consecration. This transforms it from a mere religious object into a channel of grace. The consecration creates what spiritual theologians call a thin place, or one where heaven and earth draw uniquely close. To properly consecrate your bedroom, Padre Pio recommended lighting a blessed candle, representing Christ's light, sprinkling a few drops of holy water in each corner of the room, purifying the space, and then placing the rosary in a dignified, visible location while praying. Through this holy rosary and the intercession of Padre Pio, I consecrate this room as a sanctuary of peace, healing, and divine protection throughout this Lenten season. This formal act of consecration signals to the spiritual realm your serious intention and creates the foundation for everything that follows. The second pillar is consistency. Many people experience no results from spiritual practices because they approach them sporadically or half-heartedly. Padre Pio emphasized that the rosary in your room works through consistent daily acknowledgement. He taught his spiritual children to touch the rosary each morning upon waking and each evening before sleeping, offering at least one Hail Mary while holding it. The power builds with each day of Lent, he would explain, like drops of water filling a bucket until it overflows with grace. This consistency creates what spiritual masters call a habit of soul, a groove in your spiritual consciousness that deepens with each repetition. Those who have faithfully followed this practice report that around the third week of Lent, they begin noticing subtle changes, more peaceful sleep, clearer spiritual insights, and a growing awareness of divine presence. The consistency transforms what might have been a superstitious gesture into a profound spiritual discipline that accumulates power over the 40 days. The third pillar is communion, connecting the rosary practice to the broader Lenten journey of the universal church. Padre Pio insisted that the rosary in your bedroom isn't meant to be an isolated practice, but should be integrated with the traditional Lenten disciplines of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Each time you enter your bedroom and see the rosary, it should remind you of your other Lenten commitments and strengthen your resolve to maintain them. The rosary becomes a visual anchor, he taught, tethering your private devotion to the mighty ship of the Church's collective Lenten voyage. This communion aspect multiplies the efficacy of the practice by aligning your individual efforts with the powerful spiritual current created by millions of faithful souls simultaneously engaged in Lenten observance around the world. Those who experience the most profound miracles through this practice are inevitably those who understand this principle of communion, recognizing that their bedroom rosary connects them to something far larger than their individual spiritual journey. What happens in the unseen realm when you place a rosary in your bedroom during Lent? Padre Pio, with his mystical gifts, often described what ordinary eyes cannot perceive. He spoke of how our homes become battlegrounds for influences we rarely recognize, energies that affect our thoughts, emotions, and even our physical well-being. The bedroom especially, he would say, is where we are most vulnerable to spiritual attack, as our conscious defenses lower during sleep. The rosary creates what he described as a dome of protection, a spiritual force field that negative entities cannot penetrate. Many of his spiritual children who followed this practice reported significant decreases in nightmares, intrusive thoughts, and unexplained anxiety. One woman from Naples whom Padre Pio counseled had suffered from chronic insomnia for years, despite trying numerous medications. Within 10 days of placing a blessed rosary by her bedside during Lent, she began sleeping through the night for the first time in over a decade. This protection extends beyond the psychological realm. Padre Pio explained that the rosary's presence during Lent creates an environment where guardian angels can work more efficiently. Angels respond to invitation and sacred symbol, he taught. The rosary is like a beacon that strengthens their presence and authority in that space. This angelic reinforcement doesn't just protect, it actively works for your benefit. Numerous followers of this practice have reported coincidences that defy explanation. Unexpected phone calls with opportunities arriving just when needed, running into exactly the right person who could help with a persistent problem, or finding solutions to dilemmas appearing almost magically in their minds upon waking. What many don't realize is that these aren't coincidences but the fruit of angelic assistance, facilitated by the rosary's presence during this spiritually potent season, when heaven pays special attention to our Lenten sacrifices and devotions. Perhaps most significantly, the rosary's protective influence during Lent extends to your decision-making faculties. Padre Pio noted that many life-altering poor choices originate in moments of weakness when our spiritual defenses are low. The bedroom rosary practice creates what he called a filter of wisdom that helps you instinctively recognize destructive impulses before acting on them. One businessman who consulted Padre Pio was considering a partnership that would have significantly increased his wealth. After placing a rosary in his bedroom during Lent, as the saint suggested, he began experiencing strong interior warnings about his potential partner. Despite the promising financial projections, he declined the opportunity. Months later, the would-be partner was arrested for fraud, and everyone associated with him faced financial ruin and legal troubles. The rosary didn't just protect his wealth, Padre Pio later explained to others. It protected his freedom and reputation, things money cannot buy back once lost. Modern science is only beginning to understand what Padre Pio knew intuitively, that physical environments affect us profoundly, and sacred objects transform those environments in measurable ways. Recent studies in neurotheology have demonstrated that regular meditation and prayer actually reshape brain pathways, creating new neural connections associated with peace and emotional regulation. Your bedroom, as the place where you spend your most vulnerable hours, becomes the ideal location for environmental cues that trigger these beneficial neurological states. The rosary, when placed visibly in your room during Lent, serves as what neuroscientists call a physical anchor, an environmental trigger that automatically activates the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, rather than the sympathetic system, fight or flight. This explains why so many people report almost immediate improvements in sleep quality when implementing this practice. The mere sight of the rosary begins calming physiological processes before conscious prayer even begins. The rosary's physical presence during Lent also works on what anthropologists call embodied cognition, the understanding that our thinking processes aren't isolated in our brains, but distributed throughout our physical environments. Having the rosary visibly present creates what cognitive scientists call a persistent perceptual hook, a constant environmental reminder of your spiritual intentions that shapes decision-making even when you're not consciously thinking about it. Padre Pio intuitively understood this principle, telling his followers, "The eyes may glance at the rosary for just a moment, but that moment redirects the soul's course." This explains why practitioners of this Lenten devotion often report making better choices almost effortlessly. The environmental cue subtly influences thousands of micro-decisions throughout the day. One teacher who followed Padre Pio's guidance noted that her classroom management improved dramatically during Lent, though she hadn't consciously changed her approach. The morning and evening engagement with the bedroom rosary had imperceptibly adjusted her patience threshold and response patterns. Perhaps most fascinating is how this practice aligns with emerging research on circadian spirituality, the understanding that our receptivity to transcendent experience follows predictable daily patterns. Scientists have documented that the transition periods between wakefulness and sleep are particularly conducive to spiritual insight and emotional processing. By engaging with the rosary specifically in your bedroom during these transition times, you're leveraging these natural neurological windows of opportunity. Padre Pio would tell his spiritual children, "The morning and evening moments with your rosary during Lent are like planting seeds at precisely the right season, in precisely the right soil conditions." This timing aspect explains why the same person might have prayed the rosary for years with moderate benefit, but experiences breakthrough insights and remarkable coincidences when following this specific Lenten bedroom practice. The combination of the liturgical season's spiritual potency with the brain's natural receptivity cycles creates optimal conditions for transformation that simply don't exist at other times or in other contexts. Maria Terracina had been unemployed for 18 months despite having excellent qualifications and submitting hundreds of applications. Her savings nearly depleted. She was 2 months behind on rent when a friend told her about Padre Pio's teaching on placing a rosary in the bedroom during Lent. Though initially skeptical, desperation led her to try it. She followed the practice diligently, touching the rosary each morning and evening as instructed. During the 3rd week of Lent, she had a vivid dream where she saw herself working in an office building she didn't recognize. The next morning, on a whim, she decided to take a different route on her daily walk and found herself standing in front of the exact building from her dream. Summoning her courage, she entered and asked the receptionist if they had any openings. As it happened, their administrative assistant had given notice that very morning, and the office manager was in a panic to find a replacement quickly. Maria was interviewed on the spot and hired by day's end. "The timing was impossible," she later wrote to Padre Pio's monastery. "If I had come a day earlier, there would have been no opening. A day later, they would have already posted the position, and I would have faced competition from hundreds of applicants. The rosary didn't just find me a job, it guided me to precisely the right place at precisely the right moment." Alessandro Bianchi had struggled with a gambling addiction for over a decade, repeatedly promising his wife he would stop only to find himself back at the casino weeks later. Their marriage was on the verge of collapse when his wife insisted they visit San Giovanni Rotondo as a last resort. After waiting hours in line, Alessandro managed to receive confession from Padre Pio himself, who prescribed the Lenten bedroom rosary practice along with specific prayers. "Your bedroom is where you make promises to your wife," the saint told him. "It needs to become a place of power for keeping those promises." Though initially dismissive, Alessandro followed the guidance out of respect for his wife. By the 2nd week of Lent, he noticed something strange. Whenever the urge to gamble arose, it was accompanied by a mental image of the rosary in his bedroom, which somehow diminished the compulsion's intensity. By the 4th week, for the first time in years, he passed an entire month without gambling. It wasn't willpower, he later explained. Something fundamental changed in how the addiction felt. The urges became distant, like they belonged to someone else. 5 years later, Alessandro remained free from gambling and had rebuilt his marriage and finances. The miracle wasn't that the addiction disappeared overnight, he wrote, but that it lost its power over me bit by bit, like a chain breaking, one link at a time, all from a simple string of beads in my bedroom during those 40 days. Perhaps most remarkable is the story of the Esposito family, whose 8-year-old daughter Sofia suffered from recurrent respiratory infections that no medical treatment seemed to resolve. Doctors had recommended removing her tonsils and adenoids, with surgery scheduled for the week after Easter. When the family consulted Padre Pio, he suggested postponing any decisions until after they had tried the Lenten bedroom rosary practice. He gave them a rosary he had personally blessed and instructed them to hang it on the wall near Sofia's bed. The family faithfully followed his guidance, with Sofia herself offering a Hail Mary each night before sleep. 3 weeks into Lent, Sofia's breathing began to improve notably. By Holy Week, her symptoms had resolved so completely that her pediatrician was baffled during her pre-surgical consultation. New tests showed that the chronic inflammation had mysteriously disappeared. The doctor, a devout atheist, insisted there must be a medical explanation, but couldn't provide one. The surgery was canceled, and Sofia never experienced those respiratory issues again. Medicine has its place, Padre Pio later explained when the family returned to thank him. But some healings require both heavenly and earthly medicine working together. During Lent, heaven bends especially close to our suffering. The rosary simply creates a bridge for that healing to reach us where we are most receptive. Despite its simplicity, many people fail to experience miracles from the Lenten bedroom rosary practice because of subtle but critical mistakes. The first and most common obstacle is treating the rosary as a good luck charm rather than a sacramental, an outward sign of inward devotion. Padre Pio strongly warned against magical thinking, saying, "The rosary is not a cosmic vending machine where you insert prayers and receive miracles." Those who approach the practice with a transactional mindset, expecting immediate, specific returns from minimal spiritual investment, invariably report disappointment. The rosary works through relationship, not mechanics. It represents Mary's presence and intercession, which flourish in hearts that seek genuine spiritual transformation rather than merely changed circumstances. Those who experience the most profound results approach the practice with reverence and humility, understanding that its purpose is primarily to change them rather than their situations. Paradoxically, when this internal shift occurs, external circumstances often naturally realign in ways that previously seemed impossible. The second hidden obstacle is inconsistency disguised as flexibility. Many begin the practice enthusiastically, but gradually allow exceptions and modifications that undermine its efficacy. Padre Pio emphasized that the power builds through faithful daily practice throughout all 40 days of Lent. Missing even a few days, he warned, is like puncturing a vessel filled with precious oil. The grace leaks out. This doesn't mean the practice becomes worthless if you miss a day due to unavoidable circumstances, but it does require immediately recommitting rather than using one missed day as an excuse to abandon the discipline altogether. Those who experience miracles through this practice are invariably those who prioritize consistency, even when traveling, ill, or facing disruptions to their normal routines. One businessman who consulted Padre Pio traveled constantly during Lent, but carried a small travel rosary, ensuring that the first thing he did in each hotel room was to place it visibly and say the consecration prayer. His faithful adherence, despite challenging circumstances, resulted in a completely unexpected resolution to a lawsuit that had threatened his company's existence for years. The third and perhaps most insidious obstacle is compartmentalization, failing to connect the bedroom rosary practice to the broader spiritual journey of Lent. Some people diligently follow the letter of Padre Pio's instruction while violating its spirit, placing the rosary in their bedroom even as they neglect confession, continue habitual sins without effort to reform, or ignore the Church's guidance on fasting and almsgiving. The rosary cannot bear fruit in poisoned soil, Padre Pio would say when asked why some experience no results. This practice works most powerfully when integrated into a sincere Lenten observance that includes examining one's conscience, seeking reconciliation for wrongs committed, and making concrete efforts toward spiritual growth. Those who experience the most dramatic miracles through this practice invariably report that they were simultaneously making genuine efforts in other areas of spiritual discipline. The rosary becomes a powerful conductor of grace specifically because it connects to a broader circuit of Lenten transformation that encompasses all areas of life, not just one isolated devotional practice. The time for hesitation has passed. Lent offers a unique window of spiritual opportunity that remains open for just 40 precious days. Padre Pio repeatedly emphasized that certain spiritual seasons provide unique access to divine grace that simply isn't available in the same measure at other times. This particular practice, placing a rosary in your bedroom during Lent, represents one of those rare spiritual technologies that combines simplicity of execution with profound potential for transformation. You don't need special knowledge, extraordinary faith, or perfect spiritual health to begin. The practice meets you exactly where you are, requiring only your sincere participation and openness to the process. Remember the 3 pillars. Consecrate the space intentionally, engage with the rosary consistently, and connect the practice to your broader Lenten journey. These simple steps have produced life-changing results for countless souls across generations, from dramatic physical healings to restored relationships, from freedom from addiction to unexpected financial provision. Your situation, no matter how impossible it seems, is not beyond the reach of this practice. What separates this teaching from mere superstition or wishful thinking is the weight of testimony behind it. Padre Pio was not a man given to exaggeration or empty promises. His reputation for spiritual insight and miraculous intervention was established through thousands of documented cases that defied medical and scientific explanation. When he prescribed this specific practice for the Lenten season, he did so based on decades of spiritual direction and observation of its effects across diverse circumstances. The stories shared earlier represent just a tiny fraction of the testimonies collected over years at San Giovanni Rotondo, each demonstrating the same pattern of faithful practice followed by unexpected breakthrough. These weren't just happy coincidences or psychological placebo effects. They represent the tangible intervention of spiritual reality into material circumstances. The same possibility now stands before you as Lent approaches. The question isn't whether the practice works, but whether you will give it the opportunity to work in your life with the same sincerity and consistency that produced miracles for others. As you prepare for this Lenten journey, remember that Padre Pio often said, "Pray, hope, and don't worry." This simple instruction encapsulates the spirit with which to approach the bedroom rosary practice. Pray. Engage faithfully with the rosary each morning and evening throughout Lent. Hope. Maintain confident expectation that divine wisdom is at work even when no immediate effects are visible. Don't worry. Release the need to control outcomes or understand the precise mechanics of how grace operates in your circumstances. This threefold approach creates the optimal internal environment for miracles to manifest. The practice itself is deceptively simple. A blessed rosary, visibly placed, daily acknowledged. Yet within this simplicity lies profound spiritual potential, the same power that helped countless spiritual children of Padre Pio overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. As the first day of Lent dawns, make your decision. Will you join the generations of faithful souls who have experienced the quiet miracles that unfold when heaven's attention is attracted by this simple act of faith? Your miracle awaits, not in some distant future or after achieving spiritual perfection, but in the next 40 days of sacred opportunity that now stand before you.